I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful day!
Just a quick little disclaimer here. For some stupid reason, my camera had some weird filter on which made everything super watercolory and super gross. While I could go back and re-record the whole thing, to be quite honest, I just don't feel like it. So for now, please bear with me on the terrible picture quality. This will never happen again. And one other thing before the comments go crazy. Yes, I know that apes are in fact not monkeys. However, saying monkey is funnier and it's a good meme. So apologies in advance. Well guys, it seems that peak cinema is finally back and it's all business, no monkey. And I am all the happier for it. You know, come to think of it, this has been an incredible year for monkey movies. We had Monkey Man, which was awesome. We had Godzilla x Kong, which don't worry, I will get around to reviewing. But Kong is basically just big monkey. And now we finally have the return of the Apes trilogy. But this time, we're starting on a completely new foot. I'm well aware this has been said a bajillion gazillion times, but I'm gonna just say it again and throw in my 2 cents. The new Apes trilogy is not only one of the greatest reboots or remakes of any property ever, it is one of the greatest trilogies ever made. Yes, I know that is a big statement, but when you compare it to this original Star Wars trilogy, The Godfather, Indiana Jones, Lord of the Rings. I mean, it really does deserve to be up there with one of the greatest trilogies in all of cinema. All 3 of those films were consistently great, not just good, but great. I mean, above average when it comes to your blockbuster film. And of course, you have the original movies from back in the 70s, which are fantastic. However, I will say, not only have they not aged super well, but the sequels to that first film really just don't measure up to that original movie. I mean, that ending one is incredibly hard to beat and so iconic, and you have all the famous lines, of course, the amazing makeup and effects. But each film after the first just kind of felt a little bit cheaper, a little bit cheesier. And of course, they had a TV show, they had a cartoon, they had the toys. I mean, it really was kind of like a big sci-fi movie craze before Star Wars and Jaws. All due respect to those films, but this newest trilogy really is the best combination of modern visual effects with just good old classic great storytelling. And the only redeeming quality I can say about the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes is that Paul Giamatti is... we just look at him. I mean, it's amazing. The makeup effects in those movies are so good. I remember seeing that film when I was in elementary school, and I could not stop quoting Paul Giamatti at the end of the movie going, "Who wants some aspirins?"
All right, kids. Who wants to buy some aspirin?
That's a 10 out of 10 line and about a 5 out of 10 movie. But with the last Apes trilogy, of course, it all started because James Franco wanted to cure Alzheimer's, and suddenly we got our asses all the way up to here. We have all this history. This film had a lot to live up to. And for me personally, I really needed some more orangutan action. Yes, orangutans are my favorite animal ever of all time. I mean, they're just so cool. Look at them.
Researchers are hoping this new technology could eventually be introduced to zoos right around the world. But for visitors here at Melbourne Zoo, they may be lucky enough to experience it for themselves, with the trial running sporadically throughout the rest of the month.
And Maurice was the GOAT of the original trilogy. He is wise, cool, suave. I mean, he's just the coolest character of all time. With all the monkey business out of the way, is this new film the start of a new classic trilogy, or is it a disappointing follow-up to a beloved series? Well, let's find out. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes takes place 300 years after the events of the last film. We follow a young chimpanzee named Noah, who is the head son of a falcon clan. All of humanity has seemingly become feral and mindless, and apes now rule the earth. However, after his tribe is attacked by a rival ape group serving the great King Proximus Caesar, Noah is forced to embark on a journey alongside a human woman named May, who, unlike the other humans, shows greater intelligence. Together, they set off a chain of events that determine the future for apes and humans alike. This movie was pretty brave in the fact that it starts immediately off the bat with the funeral of Caesar. Yes, this movie takes place long after Caesar and all of his lineage has passed on. So that already sets up the audience for the unexpected. While for some people it would make more sense to continue on with characters you already know, I think that trilogy was so perfect on its own. Touching it would almost feel forbidden. So to be able to expand upon this world without having to continue on with those characters and letting them rest and have their perfect little ending was really just the smartest move in my opinion, and made me so excited right from the jump. I think it would be fair to say that this movie's strongest asset is its world building, because right from the beginning, you get to meet this new tribe of apes and get to see how they live their day-to-day, their family dynamics, their home, their rituals, their practices, and you really feel like this is a culture that has developed over multiple generations. And you go quite a long time without actually ever seeing a real person. It's all CG apes, and at no point was my suspension of disbelief broken. I was never distracted. The visuals have gotten so good that you don't even notice them, and that's how you know it's good visual effects, when you're not sitting there going, oh, look at that special effect. You're just invested in the characters. For some people, the opening act might be a little slow, but I enjoyed my time with it, and I found it very well paced, and I think they introduced the conflict at just the right moment. When our villains come in, they're wearing these super scary masks, and I actually felt very intimidated by them, and I actually was worried for our character Noah. After the really heavy scene of conflict, our character is lost, and he comes across a character that, of course, instantly became my favorite, and that is Rakka, the orangutan. There's a common theme of the orangutans being the smarter, more wise, kind of sage-like characters in this world, and it really fits and suits their look. To some people, it might be cliche. I found it incredibly warm and inviting, and I was just instantly endeared to the character, but I gotta admit, I'm being completely biased here. But yeah, all the scenes with Rakka I really like, and he's this character who is essentially almost like a prophet or a priest of sorts, because he's passing down the word of Caesar, which of course has been translated and reinterpreted, throughout the years, and we as an audience know Caesar and know his legacy. But to see how these apes view him long after he's gone, once there's no more physical or visual evidence of him, is very fascinating, and it really resembles a lot of real-life religious texts and figures. Another wonderful piece of world building is seeing the echoes of humanity's past. As far as these apes are concerned, apes have always been the dominant species on the planet. They don't have access to electricity or to video, and they never see any photos of human beings doing anything. However, they do see these murals on the wall and beside this airport of human beings going to space and doing all these things, and they see these big drawings, and they're wondering, why are these humans who can't speak and who act like dumb animals, on these walls doing these amazing things? And there's this mystery there that, of course, we as an audience obviously know because we live in the real world, but you really get to see the apes' perspective on humans long after their brains have devolved. I found that incredibly funny and eerie at the same time. And you can tell just a lot of thought went into it, and it's a natural progression of where this story and where this world would go. If I have one pet peeve, though, about the humans, and I know this is a stupid thing to complain about, but it bugged me quite a bit, honestly, is the fact that all of the women are cleanly shaven, and then all the men are also pretty well kempt except for the beards, and they're all wearing loincloths. All the men are wearing loincloths covering their private parts, and all the women are wearing rags covering their breasts and their privates. And I'm like, that is way too convenient for a devolved species. Like, even cavemen were just gonna be rolling around mostly naked and hairy. Sure, maybe a little bit of cloth here and there, but it just was so, it made me think of the Flintstones or something, you know what I mean? It just kind of took me out of it, and all the human beings kind of looked like cavemen from a stage play or something like that, or cavemen in a commercial. They didn't feel like actual primal people running around. And so, yes, I understand you can't have nudity in a PG-13, but I think, honestly, if I could be so progressive, I think that's kind of bullshit. Like, look, if Titanic could do it in the 90s, why can't we do it today? If it's not inherently sexual, I really don't think it should be that big of a deal to see some naked cave people. And that's the thing, I don't want to see them naked. It's not like I am like, oh, let me see some Venus or anything like that. But it's just really distracting and just, again, felt really unrealistic and kind of silly, which is ironic considering that this movie is about talking apes. But call me crazy, I found the talking apes on horseback more realistic than the loincloth cave people. But the wild people are not the only human beings in this film. We actually are introduced to a main human protagonist who can speak, and it freaks out the apes, and it's really funny to see them interact with a human being who has normal level average intelligence, and they think it's just a super smart animal. They're treating her almost like a dog. And yet again, perfectly shaven, perfectly clean skin, no acne. I'm like, hell no. There's no way this lady has access to hygiene products in the middle of this horrible wasteland. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the human inclusion at first, because there was a cynical part of my brain that just kept thinking, oh, of course, producers can't have a movie that's just full of CGI, creatures walking around and talking. We need humans for the, people to relate while they watch. But as the film went on and as the story progressed, I actually started to appreciate the human touch more and more. And it didn't take away from the apes or from the main characters of this story. So as it went on, I was actually very surprised and satisfied with how human beings were integrated into this. And a big surprising role for me was William H. Macy. Of course, if you know him, he's from Shameless and from Fargo. His character in this was a keeper of history, and I really liked his dynamic with our main human character. But now it's time to talk about the best part of this movie, and that's easily Proximus Caesar. What a badass villain. I mean, how could you not love him? He chews up the scenery every time he's around. He's scary, he's funny, he's just awesome. His design is great. The motion capture and the voice is just so awesome, and I think he might be my favorite villain of this franchise thus far. I mean, Koba was awesome, but Proximus, oh man, he's like Koba 2.0. All the action we did get in the third act felt very well earned, and I was excited and on the edge of my seat the entire time. There were actual sad death scenes that got to me and made me clench and go, no, like I really didn't want that character to die. And the ending was harrowing, triumphant, and I was left wanting more. And that's the best feeling you can have whenever you're starting a new series. So yes, I think this was a successful new start to a new Apes trilogy. And if I had to rank it among the other Apes films, honestly, it might be at the bottom, which sounds like it's a bad thing, but it's not, because the other Apes movies are so awesome that this is just slightly less awesome. So for me, this probably would not be as great as Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but I would be lying if I didn't say I am so ready for another one of these. Like, I need more Apes movies right now. So let's go ahead. I'm going to make this a short one. Let's wrap it up. Even though this wasn't quite as emotionally compelling as the Matt Reeves films or Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and overall just wasn't as strong as that first trilogy, that's a tall order. And honestly, this was a fun, exciting, adventurous blockbuster, and it was exactly what I needed to have faith in this new trilogy. So with all that being said, I think I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. You might have noticed that this video was significantly shorter than my past movie reviews, and I think that I'm probably going to try and snip them shorter like this more and more often. Every once in a while, there might be a movie where I want to say a little bit more, but I want to save that energy for video essays and more in-depth videos about topics that I love, as well as other movies that are coming out. And you know, it's just such a shame because I've seen so many movies, both last year and this year, that I never got around to reviewing because I tend to make them a little too long and put in a little too much energy into the wrong places. I'll be able to maintain a more regular release schedule and work on more of those big projects that I know you guys really love. So until next time, apes together, strong.